In the eastern and southeastern regions of Turkey, there are many villages where Armenians used to live. Many lands and structures were taken from them. In these areas, you can still see the ruins of their settlements. One night, a shepherd wakes up to the barking of dogs, thinking it might be a wolf. He goes to where the dogs are but sees nothing in the vicinity. The place where the dogs are is a ruin. He calls the dogs and returns. The next night, the same sounds in the same place, but again, there's nothing. The shepherds get suspicious and decide to check the same place during the day. They find a hole among the ruins about 1/2 meter in diameter. They think it's probably a hole made by an animal like a mouse or fox, and that's why the dogs are barking, so they don't pay much attention to it. The next night, the same thing happens again, and the shepherd goes to check and sees flames coming from the hole. Excited, he wakes the other 2 shepherds, and they see blue flames. Considering the natural gas or similar gases in the area, such as diodin, they think it's some kind of gas burning and get excited about its potential value. The next morning, they see that the fire has gone out and decide to dig up the hole. After a little digging, they find a large room. This confuses them, and they start thinking there might be treasure. They dig around the walls and eventually find a small chest. When they open it, they find hair, teeth, bones, and a piece of leather with Armenian letters. But as soon as they open it, a horrible smell spreads around. They take the chest to their tent, but as soon as they get close to the animals, all the sheep scatter, chaos ensues, the dogs bark, and the sheep try to escape the pen. The shepherds don't realize at first that this is related to the chest. They send one of them to the village to show the chest to someone knowledgeable. The knowledgeable person, who happens to be their father-in-law, sees the Armenian letters and the bones and advises them to throw it away. The shepherds don't listen and hide the chest to ask others. But with the chest around, they can't control the animals. One of them realizes it might be magic. They take the chest to a man who deals with such things. The man tells them that there's an Armenian treasure, but there's a demon attached to it that can haunt their entire family. He warns them to return the chest and cover it up with specific prayers, and not to mess with the treasure. The shepherd is terrified, but the thought of the treasure entices him. He returns to the other shepherds and tells them what happened. They decide to dig at night to avoid suspicion. They dig for a few hours but find nothing and return to sleep. However, the animals don't stop making noise. Finally, they take the chest back to the hole and the noise stops. The next morning, they find over 100 dead sheep in the pen with no signs of struggle or blood. The animals appear swollen and stiff. Panic-stricken, they go to the village, but except for the shepherds and the knowledgeable man, no one knows about the magic. Their father-in-law's brothers beat the shepherds and drive them away. They sacrifice sheep and try to close the issue. The shepherd, whose wife died, says no. Then he turns to the other and says, "I see it." Meaning, he can see the other entity in the room that has possessed him. "Now," says the man, "the demon inside you can hear and understand us, but here it can't harm you or anyone else. It won't let us harm you either because it has sealed itself to you. Wherever you go, it follows you, disturbing your sleep, meals, and home. It won't leave until it takes control over you. For this, we will bind a huddam to you." Let's explain what a huddam is. Huddam are powerful entities, but benevolent ones. Think of them as leaders. Controlling huddam is very difficult. They only assist if they want to, and it requires skilled people to handle them. To get help from a huddam, the man gives the shepherd specific prayers. He tells him to bury 7 amulets in 7 different places. There were a few other things, but he wouldn't elaborate, perhaps fearing it would be broken. After receiving this information, they leave Erzurum. On their way back at night, the possessed shepherd asks to stop to relieve himself. They stop at a facility, and the shepherd goes to the restroom while the other smokes. When he doesn't return for a while, the other shepherd becomes suspicious. He goes to the restroom, but it's empty. The area behind the facility is wilderness. He sees the man has gone out to the wilderness. He calls him back. The moment I heard his voice, I knew it wasn't him, says the shepherd. He asks the pump attendant to help bring his friend to the car. When they return, they see the man running into the wilderness. The attendant gets suspicious and doesn't go. The shepherd is forced to chase him. In the darkness, he finds the man crouching and staring at the ground. When he approaches, the man makes a choking sound like he's being strangled. His face looks charred and he growls. "Adhen," says the man. The shepherd doesn't understand what he means by Adhen and starts reciting the call to prayer. He calls Erzurum again. The man says, "Don't leave him alone until the morning, Adhen. Tie him up if you have to, or they will take him." They need to wait until morning because these entities are active between the night prayer and morning Adhen. After the morning Adhen, their influence weakens and the person comes to their senses. The shepherd drags the man to the facility while reciting prayers. He washes his face and gives him water, then decides to take him to the mosque for protection. But he can't get the shepherd into the mosque. He eventually takes him to the car, locks the doors, and keeps watch. In the meantime, the people at the facility get suspicious and chase them away. Desperate, he drives off, with the other shepherd asleep in the back. Suddenly, the man opens the door and jumps out of the moving car. He crashes to the ground. The shepherd stops the car, but the man is missing. It's dark, and he can't see anything. He calls out and searches with the car's headlights, but the man is gone. He calls Erzurum again. The man says, "They took him, but there isn't much time left. He might survive." About half an hour later, it's time for Adhen. As it gets light, he starts shouting for his friend. Eventually, he hears him calling from a distance. He runs and finds him holding a piece of bone with symbols like writing on it. The man remembers nothing but has come to his senses. They call Erzurum again, and the man says, "Bring him to me." They set off again. On the way, the man is normal but remembers nothing, only saying, "I kept seeing my home, barn, and children." They call home, and there's no problem. When they arrive in Erzurum, the man sees the bone and panics, telling them to call home immediately and evacuate. When they call, they find out the house is on fire. People are screaming that the child is inside. He goes mad and wants to go, but they won't let him, fearing more will happen. The child's name and his wife's name are written on the bone. His wife is outside, but the child is trapped inside. News comes that they have rescued the child, but he is badly burned and taken to the hospital. The man says, "You go to your child. The other will bury the amulets. We have until the evening prayer to solve this." The shepherd with the burned child agrees and goes. They reach Agri to bury the amulets in specified places. Each place is either a cave, ruins, or a remote mountain spot. At each place, the man loses control, speaking incomprehensible words, conversing with invisible entities, and crying. After burying the amulet, he returns to normal. They do this for all 7 amulets, drink the water given by the man, and return. The burned child slowly recovers. The house burns down completely, with 2 cows and the barn inside. Had they buried the amulets in time, none of this would have happened. While giving the amulets, the man explained their purpose. Each amulet contains a plea for help. It seeks protection from 7 different tribes at the 7 places they visited. If all 7 tribes accept, the demon's influence will be lifted, and it will leave them in peace. However, if one amulet is removed or lost, the protection is broken. Even after 100 years, the demon could return. After doing everything, the shepherds are finally freed from the curse.